Andy was 11 years old when he and his friends first noticed the most beautiful teacher in the school. She was 26 years old and taught 6th grade. Andy and his friends would sometimes wait in the parking lot of their school just to see when she would pull her car into her parking spot. They carefully watched as she made final touches to her makeup before exiting the car in her usual short skirt that made their smiles even brighter. "Miss Wilburton," they would shout as they ran to offer to help her with her bags and boxes. Andy came from a home where his dad was not in the picture, and his mom had to work 2 jobs just to support him and his 5 other brothers and sisters. Being the 3rd child, he would always go unnoticed, but still had to pull his weight around the house. Whether it was cleaning up after the baby twins or taking out the trash. Each had their chores and he was no exception. However, Andy didn't like chores, so he would always con his younger sibling Thomas, who was just a year and a half younger than he was, into doing his chores for small favors. Andy's oldest sibling was Toby, named after his father Toby Cole. But since their father left shortly after the twins were born, everyone just called him TC. Andy looked up to TC as he thought he was the coolest guy he knew. TC worked at the pizzeria, which meant that they always had pizza for dinner. When Mom was out, as she always is, TC would take his girlfriends to the house so she could help to babysit the younger siblings, or they just made out in the room TC shared with Andy and his other brother. Miss Wilburton lived alone but was engaged to be married to a man her sister Sarah set her up with. She loved her job as a teacher, and all the students loved her, and she was seen as the most vibrant teacher in the school. Fast forward 2 years later. Andy was now in 6th grade, which meant that Miss Wilburton would now be his teacher. In class each day he fantasized about kissing her, just like he saw his brother did with his girlfriends, or other things he saw on TV. He would make doodles in his notebook and small notes that included Andy and Sadie in a heart shape. Sadie was Miss Wilburton's first name. 3 months into the class, Andy finally mustered the courage to tell Miss Wilburton how he felt. He spent the entire class constructing the perfect note to explain how he felt. As the bell rang, Andy went up to Miss Wilburton's desk and handed her the note. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Andy." Miss Wilburton was preoccupied at the time, and so she dropped the note into her bag with the intention to read the note when she got home. By this time, Miss Wilburton was not yet married, but had moved in with her fiancé Jim. When Miss Wilburton got home, she made dinner, showered, and was about to sit for a movie when she remembered the note. She got up, walked to her bag, and retrieved the note. Reading the words, she blushed a little, but was also shocked. She had never been described with such words before, but she was even more shocked that her little 13 years old student was the one saying these things to her. As her heart pounded in disbelief, Miss Wilburton crushed the note immediately and threw it in the garbage. Waking up the next morning with the forwardness of the note on her mind, she chalked it up to be a regular student crush that would pass with time. However, over the next few weeks, she would get several more letters that were more intense than the last. And as the weeks went on, Miss Wilburton found herself looking forward to the warm words that made her feel like a loved woman. During this time, Andy would crave a response to his letters, but she never responded, and so he kept writing. 6 months into the school year, Miss Wilburton finally wrote a response to Andy's love letters. As she issued the test papers in class, she took care to place the note under Andy's test paper as she passed his desk. Andy felt so excited that she finally responded. He grabbed the note and ran to the bathroom where he could read in private. In the note, Miss Wilburton stated that she was engaged and could not offer Andy the relationship he was looking for. She cited that he was indeed a handsome boy that would make any girl his own age happy, but she was not interested. At the end of the note, she signed it, Love S. Andy read the note 3 times and smiled each time he read it, as it meant to him that she was not saying no, she was saying she was not available. He went back to class and finished his test. At the end of the day, the bell rang and all the students got up and rushed to the teacher's desk to hand in their papers. But Andy made sure he was the last to leave the class. As he walked up to the desk, he stretched his paper out to hand it to Miss Wilburton while using his other hand to touch hers. He whispered to her that she should meet him somewhere that evening so they could talk. She agreed as Andy left the classroom. That evening, when they met up just to talk, Andy would make his move on Miss Wilburton. In her mind, she wanted to push him away when he started to kiss her, but she didn't. She reveled in how good it felt as he stroked her body. Several other meetings like this happened over the coming weeks, where they would meet up to talk and ended up having sex. It was an exciting experience for Andy, and he began to refer to her as his girlfriend. One evening, when they met up to talk, saying they saw a car parked in a parking lot for a long time and was wondering if some homeless person was camping out in the parking lot. When the police came, Miss Wilburton jumped out of the car wearing what could have been a short dress or a long t-shirt. She spoke to the officer and explained to him that she was just taking a nap in her car before she headed home. The officer did not notice little Andy hiding in the back seat. This unholy affair would not be discovered until Miss Wilburton's fiancé found the letters she exchanged with Andy. He was so disgusted by the notes that he moved out of their apartment. Miss Wilburton was not shaken by the fact that her fiancé left. To her, it meant that she could now have her own lover Andy over at the house anytime she wanted, which she did. However, a few days after her fiancé left, he reported the situation to the police and they arrested her. By this time, Miss Wilburton was now pregnant for Andy. She went through her trial, and each time she appeared in court, her tummy got bigger and bigger. Her defense was that she didn't see her love for Andy as wrong, and if she thought it was wrong, she would not have done it. When they interviewed Andy, he also expressed his love for Miss Wilburton. Miss Wilburton was sentenced to 10 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 5 years. Miss Wilburton gave birth in prison to a bouncing baby boy, and the child was placed into the care of Andy and his mother. In 5 years, she was granted parole. Her first stop after being released was to visit Andy, who was now 18 years old, and her 5-year-old son. On Andy's 22nd birthday, Sadie proposed to Andy and he said yes. They now live together in their family home with their 3 children.
So, what do you think? Are you thinking this is messed up? Is this rape of a minor? Do you see this as a story of forbidden love? Are you assigning blame? Comment down below. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe.